today interviewing the two lead detectives of the Robert Pickton case, the head of Vancouver Police Department, and the lead detective of the case. So, detective, tell us what you know about Robert Pickton and why he did what he did.
He came from 3 generations of pig farmers from Vancouver, British Columbia in Canada. He had no room for childhood innocence, only school and work. He was very neglected and left to his own resources many times. From all accounts, he was a very shy person. He never showered, so he was rejected by his peers at school many times. Then we found out that he was a cocaine addict who threw huge parties with his siblings on the farm. He was never married. He didn't finish high school. He was a bit of a loner. And as I mentioned before, he was a pig farmer.
Great. Thank you, detective. Detective, do you believe he is a psychopath?
Yes, I believe he's a psychopath. The cocaine and the neglect probably had joined parts that made him that way, but he was never really tested.
Do you believe he was a psychopath?
Yes, I agree with the detective. Though he was never tested, everything that led up to this time period leads us to believe he was a psychopath.
Does he have any history of a violent past before he became a serial killer?
Well, he was arrested on attempted murder, but he was never charged because the victim was a druggie and considered an unreliable witness in court.
Is it true that he confessed to the 49 murders, 49 murders of all the women?
Yes, it is true. He confessed to 49 murders, and then he also told us exactly how he murdered most of the victims. He put them through a meat grinder. I can show you the video if you would like.
I'd love to, so go ahead. In the first video you're about to see, Robert Pickton's cellmate, or an undercover agent, tells him how disposing of the bodies by dropping them in the ocean would be a good way to get rid of them. And Robert Pickton then describes how he came up with a better plan to dispose of the bodies.
Who do you know? No.
In the second video you're about to watch, Robert Pickton gets mad at himself because he was one short of killing 50 people. And even his cellmate, the undercover spy, is surprised at how many he actually killed. He admits that at the very end of the 50, or the 49, he became sloppier, and that was going to be his downfall if and when the police ever caught him.
Maybe 50. That's what I was sloppy for. Yeah. Make a big flash.
Thank you, Detective, for that very insightful video. Now we will continue with our interview. Who and what type of persons were his victims, and what was the time span of his murder?
I can answer that question. All of his victims were prostitutes in the Vancouver red light district. The time span is uncertain. We have for sure from 1997 to 2001, but unfortunately we think he started much earlier.
Wow. I heard earlier that it took you 18 months to go through everything on his farm, Detective. What took you so long?
Well, remember, he was a pig farmer, and so it was quite a messy area full of pig feces everywhere, and his house was on 16.5 acres, which means we had to dig up all the land to find as many bodies as possible.
Nice to know. Who gave you the tip to go searching the first time?
Yeah, so the tip originally came from a former employee of his pig farmer. who told us that he had personally seen illegal weapons on the farm. And so it wasn't about the murders, it was actually about illegal weapons.
Cool. What was your first impression of him? And did he seem like a serial killer to you when you first met him on the illegal weapons warrant?
I mean, at that point, he didn't seem like a serial killer. He was just a sloppy man. He smelled because he never showered. And he just seemed very unkempt.
After you guys arrested him and on the murder charges, after you did everything, did he defend himself in court?
He chose to remain silent.
It's nice to know. After he was arrested, he was accused of 26 murders, but why was he only tried and convicted of 6?
He was charged with 26 murders, as you said, but the count was separated into 6 strong cases and then the other 20. He was convicted on 6 counts of second-degree murder, sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. After his life sentence, which was the maximum sentence at that time, since there was no death penalty, there was no reason to pursue and go into the other 20 cases, since we knew he was going to be in prison the rest of his life.
Why was this such a slam dunk case when it came to forensic evidence?
Well, forensic evidence was a major role in convicting Robert Pickton because of the DNA evidence found in his house. And my other detective and I will talk to you about a handful of the convictions and forensic evidence that helped with the case. Marnie Frey was 24 years old. They found a jawbone outside the slaughterhouse of Robert's home.
So the second victim was Georgina Faith Pickton. She was 34. And the forensic evidence they found there were hand bones buried near the piggery under a platform in a slaughterhouse.
Next, there was Brenda Ann Wolfe. The jawbone was found in a freezer and a former piggery. DNA on Pickton's leather jacket from her body and DNA on a handcuff key.
Andrea Jaceberry was another victim in which forensic evidence was found. Hands, head, and the feet were found in a bucket in a freezer. Then there was also DNA on an earring and a ring found in the slaughterhouse. As well, there was DNA on a nylon jacket, black leather boots, a pillowcase, and the bathroom wall.
The fifth victim of 6 was Serena Abbotsway. Her head, hands, and feet were found in a bucket in the freezer. Her blood on a ski bag, DNA on 2 syringes, her inhalers, and her revenue Canadian IRS documents.
The 6th victim in which conviction was found was Mona Wilson. Her head, hands, and feet were also found in a bucket in the piggery. She had DNA on a sex toy that was attached to a .22 revolver, and large blood stains on a foam mattress, bed platform, and walls in the motorhome. And this was the forensic and DNA evidence that was used in the major 6 convictions.
Wow. Thank you, detectives. Where is he today?
Well, in June 2018, he was moved from the Vancouver Corrections Facility to the Quebec Maximum Security Prison, where he ran into some health issues in May 2019. As far as we know, that's where he still is.
I believe Robert Pickton was a very cynical and messed up man. I also believe his childhood scars of only work and school had a very lasting impact on his future. Although he was never tested, I believe that there was something, that he is a psychopath and that there's something wrong with him. He raped and killed 49 women, maybe more, we don't know. This story shows that the police work all around the world need to start communicating better and need to start looking into even the least of these. Because what happens if they would have if he would have been arrested, looked into the case, and he would have been arrested for the first attempted murder instead of it just being thrown away? Would there have been 48 other murders? Would there have been this whole entire $100 billion investigation? We will never know.